This is a True Crime in Real Time update from True Crime Today and the Hidden Killers podcast.
The courtroom battle over anonymity in the Sean Combs case has become as contentious as the charges themselves. At the heart of this legal firestorm are the voices of at least 17 individuals, each filing under the protective veil of Jane or John Doe. These accusers allege a harrowing pattern of sexual abuse, but for Combs' defense team, their anonymity poses a fundamental challenge. How, they ask, can a man defend himself against ghosts? The defense's argument is stark. Anonymity strips Combs of his right to a fair trial. Without knowing who his accusers are, how can they assess the credibility of their claims? How can they investigate, cross-examine, and dismantle accusations shrouded in secrecy? It's a legal Rubik's Cube, and the stakes couldn't be higher. The prosecution, meanwhile, paints a different picture. In the criminal case, where Combs faces racketeering and sex trafficking charges, prosecutors have argued that revealing the accusers' identities too soon could expose them to potential threats. One accuser, named only as Victim 1, has already been publicly identified as Combs' former girlfriend, Cassandra Ventura. But the others remain nameless, their identities shielded as a precaution. This is not new territory. The legal system often walks a tightrope between protecting victims and ensuring a defendant's rights. Yet, as Combs' defense team highlights, the scales can't tip so far that the accused is left fighting an invisible enemy. Without clarity from the government, they argue, Mr. Combs has no way of knowing which allegations the government is relying on for purposes of the indictment. The fight over anonymity is playing out in both civil and criminal courts. In recent weeks, federal judges in Manhattan have started to weigh in, with some denying accusers the right to remain anonymous. One judge rejected a plaintiff's request to use a pseudonym in a case alleging that Combs raped her in 2004, ruling that her fears of retaliation were too speculative. It's a decision that underscores the tension between privacy and transparency in America's judicial system. But these rulings don't come without their consequences. For the plaintiffs, the fear is palpable. They speak of retribution, of their lives being upended if their names become public. Their attorneys argue that these fears are not only valid, but could deter other victims from coming forward. It's a chilling reality. How many voices remain silent because the price of speaking out is simply too high? For Combs, the consequences are equally severe. His legal team argues that anonymity hampers their ability to mount a robust defense. They point to other high-profile cases like those involving Harvey Weinstein and Kevin Spacey, where accusers were required to reveal their identities. In those cases, the defense uncovered information that cast doubt on the accusations. Could the same happen here? It's a question that cuts to the core of the justice system. The inconsistencies in how courts handle anonymity only add to the chaos. Legal scholars point out that there's no clear precedent, leaving judges with significant discretion. In some cases, accusers have been allowed to testify under pseudonyms. In others, they've been forced to reveal their names even if it meant withdrawing their claims. It's a patchwork of rulings that reflects the broader struggle to balance competing rights. Combs' accusers are represented by a legal team led by Houston attorney Tony Busby, who has filed the majority of the anonymous suits. Busby has argued that his client's fears of retribution are real and justified, especially given the intense media scrutiny surrounding the case. Most of our clients still fear retribution and have conditioned moving forward on anonymity, he wrote in court papers. For now, several of the cases have received temporary approval to proceed anonymously, but those rulings are far from final. In the criminal case, the stakes are even higher. Prosecutors argue that naming the accusers too early could put them at risk. They've resisted defense demands to reveal the identities, arguing that the timing is premature with the trial still months away. The government can delay disclosure under certain conditions, but eventually the defense will learn who these individuals are. In extreme cases, judges have even allowed witnesses to testify under pseudonyms to protect their safety. But as these legal battles unfold, one question looms: can justice be served when so much of the process remains cloaked in secrecy? For Combs, the anonymity of his accusers feels like a strategic disadvantage, one that could undermine the integrity of his defense. For the accusers, anonymity is a shield against a world that too often punishes the vulnerable for speaking out. This legal tug of war is far from over. As the courts continue to deliberate, the outcomes could set significant precedents for future cases involving sexual assault and anonymity. It's a case that forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about privacy, justice, and the price of accountability. The battle over anonymity in the Sean Combs case isn't just about legal strategies or courtroom tactics. It's a reflection of deeper societal tensions. On one side, you have victims seeking protection from a system they fear may expose and ultimately betray them. On the other, a defendant arguing that anonymity blinds justice and erodes the very foundation of a fair trial. It's a complex dynamic, and it begs the question, how do we strike a balance? From where I sit, this isn't just another high-profile case. It's a stress test for a justice system that's grappling with the ripple effects of the Me Too movement. Victims have every right to fear retribution in an era where one wrong tweet can upend your life. But here's the kicker. Every time we tip the scales too far in one direction, we risk undermining the core principles that hold our system together. Think about it. Anonymity is a powerful tool. It shields victims from public scrutiny, from threats, from being re-traumatized every time their name is splashed across a headline. But in the hands of the court, it can also unintentionally send a message to jurors, as if secrecy somehow validates the accusations. That's not just a slippery slope, it's a full-blown avalanche. The defense's point isn't without merit either. If you're facing life-altering accusations, shouldn't you have the right to know who's accusing you, to confront them, to dig into their claims, and to defend yourself in the fullest sense? This isn't about silencing victims. It's about ensuring that justice, true justice, is served. Of course, this isn't a binary issue. Each case comes with its own set of circumstances, and the courts must weigh the risks and benefits of anonymity carefully. But as we've seen, the lack of consistency across rulings only fuels the fire. It creates a patchwork of justice that leaves both victims and defendants navigating an uncertain and often contradictory legal landscape. So, where do we go from here? The answer isn't clear, and maybe it never will be. But one thing's for sure. This case will leave a lasting mark on how we handle anonymity in the courtroom. And perhaps that's the most unsettling part. Because in a world that thrives on black and white answers, the truth often lives in the gray. That's all for now. We'll keep digging and getting you the facts. Thanks for listening. Be sure to press subscribe so you don't miss any of our updates.
In a world where the darkest secrets lie just beneath the surface.
They said it was an accident, but the evidence says otherwise.
Where hidden killers roam, unnoticed, in the shadows.
I think you would definitely be looking at a blend of toxic, very bad narcissistic personality traits, and they will be vengeful and possibly resort to violence.
Join Tony Brueski as he uncovers the truth behind the most chilling cases.
They said it was an accident, but the evidence clearly says otherwise.
Each episode, we dig deep into the minds of those who commit the unthinkable.
To your point on narcissism, he thinks in his own mind how witty he is.
Yeah.
But he lost that jury. I was done with him in 2 minutes.
From unsolved mysteries to infamous crimes.
Geez, you've just talked about how you've taught yourself how to do everything under the sun. I bet you did a YouTube video, how to best kill somebody with a knife.
Hidden Killers with Tony Brueski takes you where few dare to go.
How does someone with such a dark secret go unnoticed for so long?
With multiple new episodes every single day.
We're not just telling stories, we're seeking justice.
Listen now on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Just search for Hidden Killers with Tony Brueski.